Alrighty, Meek, so I'm going to respond directly to some of your questions because, or statements because others are repeating the same things. Alright, one, a certified hardware program is basically paying money to Apple. And what that does is then Apple goes to the hardware producers and approves hardware. From there, OEMs select from those hardware pools, as well as people who build their own. For the majority, the OEMs will have already configured their machines because they also want to legitimately compete and get people to buy their machines with OS X. And you won't have your little hardware combination problems, but I've got something for that later. And as for the build your own, it's funny because in arguments when people bring up games against you, you call gamers a niche, or people who build their own a niche. So they're very tiny, tiny, tiny. But when it comes to this argument, all of a sudden that niche has grown exponentially because now it's just going to crush Apple hardware sales. Okay, so I just don't buy that. I just don't buy that argument. Number two, everybody's talking about controlled hardware environments. I'm sorry, it's a bogus argument. Apple has been a controlled hardware environment since the beginning. If controlled hardware is everything to the operating system, guys, why the hell did pretty much most of the previous Apple operating systems were, and mostly in part, junk? They had instability issues, especially when early System 7 was good, but even going to early System 7 was slower than System 6. Okay? Now, as Apple progressed, the operating systems just got worse, 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 and worse. This is why I gave my whole video on the quest for Apple finding an operating system. That entire time, their hardware environment was controlled. So you guys answer me on how the hell a controlled hardware environment helps anything. If the software is shit, it doesn't matter. Nothing matters. The next thing is about drivers. I swear, everybody keeps talking about, oh, Apple wants to be the next Microsoft. Apple wants to be the next Microsoft. Oh, why do they want Apple to be the next Microsoft? I don't want Apple to be the next Microsoft. But here's something that I have for you guys. I am tired of a Microsoft-dominated computer world. There's things that you guys don't even realize. For instance, in hardware, that because of inefficiencies within Windows and within the Windows operating systems, hardware manufacturers actually introduced features to help make up the slack that Windows had as a deficit. That meant the consumer had to pay more for that hardware because of a deficit within the software in terms of hardware costs. I'm tired of living in a world like that. Sometimes we build technology to support deficiencies that makes us go backwards in hardware technology. I'm tired of that. I would much rather have better operating systems out there, at least as a balance, so that everyone has a real choice to choose from. But keeping your mentality, which was the John Scully mentality of the late 80s and 90s, is what crushed Apple to begin with. Protect, protect, protect. They thought they did exactly that. Exactly what you guys are thinking. And they lost almost everything down to nothing because they protected everything. Sun Microsystems, which is much larger in scope than Apple, did the same thing, but they released everything. And now Sun's products are just about in everything because they released it. And they're an unstoppable juggernaut. The other thing is about let's get back to drivers as I digressed. Drivers has everything to do with the way the software is written. The reason why Windows has driver problems is because Windows changes its kernel every gosh damn time they release something. Did you know that Linux kernel doesn't change, the Unix kernel doesn't change, and OS X's kernel doesn't change? They just simply add to it. What does Windows do? Let's trash this kernel, and we'll put this kernel in, or let's just put this code base in. And then once they've done that and they've selected a kernel, then they have to decide to say, okay, how far backwards compatible do we want to be? Then they have to move all that legacy shit on top of the new kernel that they've provided. Think of how all these problems develop from this. Alright, guys? Don't project Windows screw-ups on other OSs, because it doesn't happen. And as far as Amy talking about, oh, well, they're going to put it on every machine, and you can't. Look, if you're a person, Amy, that doesn't, when you buy something and you don't read the system requirements for that specific product and you do it anyway, I'm not concerned about that opinion or what that person could say about Apple, quite frankly. Why would that even matter? If we're going to have people that just simply don't read system requirements and irregardless try to do something, forget it. If you want to count their opinion, go for it. I'm not. I mean, that's utterly ridiculous. The other thing is about how could Apple protect further? Well, they already have binaries that they do, and they could certainly look for more specific binaries just to ensure it's certified hardware. Now, granted, it's not every piece of hardware has to be certified. I mean, really, there's quite frankly many things already outside GPUs and like two other things that are really very just common hardware principle across the board because of the Intel switch. So drivers, not really going to be an issue. If you want to bring up old machines and people doing things where they're not reading system requirements, I don't count that as anything because they're not following directions. And three, to further support drivers, OS X, Linux, and Unix don't change their kernels, right? And a closed hardware environment does nothing. It does nothing if the software isn't up to snuff. You know, like I said, I cite Apple's historical operating systems on a controlled hardware environment. All right, and also I've provided more than enough facts to show what really happened in the mid-90s, and I encourage all of you YouTubers to do your research. All right, so I'm going to take the set OS X free debate over to Ustream, simply because of the time limit restrictions on YouTube, and you're really forced to edit out a lot of information, and I don't want to clog my channel with all the set OS X free, because there's more Mac versus PC to do, and I have to continue doing the multi-processing series, so on and so forth. So I'm going to bring this debate to Ustream. And really, getting back to Mac versus PC, this is what it's about. It's Mac really versus Windows. And the mentality of the John Scullys is, and there was like a great user who had stated that in my stream last night and said, his name is Crazy Black. And he said, it's funny. Apple plays not to lose, but also plays not to win. I love that statement, and it's so true. While I do internally and myself believe that Apple will maybe soon enough set OS X free, I would like it done earlier, but that's just my own speculation. Anyway, like I said, I'm going to be taking this stuff to Ustream because primarily one, there is no technical reason why OS X cannot be set free, and I will debate that and debate that. And any of you who really have questions, because we're going to get real technical, and I encourage you guys to come to Ustream, and I'll be more than happy to answer those questions. This is not about owning. This is a learning experience. We can learn a lot of really more about hardware and software just in this process of this debate. And please show up. I will post schedules when I will do this set OS X free. Like I said, I will not rest until I have exhausted every technical defense that the opposition has, as in not to set OS X free. Other than that, I found it funny while I accused the opposition in debate to be the John Sculley of the late 80s and 90s. I myself and others represent the John Sculley in hindsight who said he should have done that, as well as Steve Wozniak and other high-up Apple executives that in hindsight said this is what we should have done in order to stave off such expansive and rapid growth of Windows. In other words, not playing just not to lose. Anyway, thanks for watching.